Welcome to the New Orleans Saints podcast, presented by Rouse's Markets. You'll hear from players, coaches, broadcasters, and writers that cover the NFL daily. The New Orleans Saints podcast starts right now. Here's your host, Erin Summers.
That kick is good. Charlie Smith, welcome to the NFL as the Saints put on the board 19-11.
The way the game was going, we needed like two-point conversions if we scored a touchdown. So you were curious if the opportunity is going to come up, but ultimately you just have to stay ready. And then they kicked that field goal to go up 11. So I knew we might have needed one at some stage. And look, the boys did a great operation, and I was just happy to be able to knock it down.
There's a lot of people back in Mayo Bridge that were waiting for you as well. They were all supporting him.
Yeah.
They had to wait a long time. Are you kind of upset about that you didn't get on the field earlier?
Yeah, there was a thing. So I kind of told a few people at home when I found out. And, there was like a watch party in the pub in Mayo Bridge where I'm from. And I think there was any time I scored, there was a free pints for everybody. So
there was. Small capacity, but high volume.
I was wondering if they were going to get one. But look, no, it was nice.
That was Saints kicker Charlie Smith after nailing a 56-yard field goal, his first NFL kick. And then he also had that onside kick towards the end of the game that put the Saints in position for a comeback against the Miami Dolphins. However, couldn't quite carry out the comeback, falling 21-17. It was 16-0 at the half. The Saints just couldn't get anything going offensively. But then from there, they came out second half, first drive, and they were able to get into the end zone on a 17-yard touchdown by Chris Olave, and a Tyler Shough 2-point conversion made it 16-8. The Saints defense held the Dolphins to just 5 points total in the second half of play, and then later on in the fourth, with a minute 17 to go, the Saints scored again on a Devon Vele touchdown. They went for a 2-point again. However, Taliese Fuaga got called on a false start, moved him back to the 7, and then Minkah Fitzpatrick intercepted the 2-point conversion attempt. It was a pass intended for Devon Vele. Fitzpatrick ran it back, which extended the lead to 21-17. That onside kick that I mentioned by Charlie Smith ended up being successful. Devon Vele recovered it, and the Saints had an opportunity to drive down the field to be able to score and take the win. However, they could not convert on a 4th-and-1 attempt at the Miami 36, and this one ended 21-17. It was a great rally and an impressive fight from the Saints. Here is head coach Kellen Moore.
Tough game. We battled. I thought that was there was some fun in that game as far as just the back and forth element, and we were right in it till the end. And so I love the way our guys responded. We didn't start very well. And all three, certainly on defense and on offense, we certainly did not start well. But our guys battled, and I love the way our guys responded. I thought coming out of the second half, you just felt a little bit of an energy of, okay, let's go turn this thing up a little bit more. And so offensively got the score, and then defense, I thought, settled in, just played some really good football in the second half. I thought special teams, we did some good stuff. And so, as frustrating as this loss is, and these – they're tough. There's nothing easy about losing. I love the way our guys battled, and I love the way the positives that are coming out of this game are going to be able to be built off of.
Coming out of the game, there was only one injury. It was to safety Justin Reed. He left early in the game with a knee injury, tried to return, but then quickly left the game again. Coach Moore said that injury may keep Reed out sometime, but didn't have any more details on it than that. So we'll continue to keep you updated as we find out more information throughout the week. For today's Saints podcast guest, I bring in the great Jermon Bushrod. He was at the game in Miami doing some radio work for the Dolphins, but he assured me that he was on the Saints side for this game. So he has a lot of insight into what happened in that game, where the Saints are at this season, and what's ahead. Jermon, thank you so much for joining me on the New Orleans Saints podcast. It's always good to have you. I missed you when you were at training camp this year. Finally got you now.
Yeah, absolutely. I always appreciate the invite. I don't even know if I made it out to training camp. I did. Yep. I came out for a couple of days. Previous years, I've been able to come out for a week, maybe a couple stints. So I'll get back to that as long as I'm, still having that opportunity with Fox. But, this year my summer will be a little bit cleaner since I don't have to, I haven't committed to coaching. So we'll see how that turns out.
Yeah. How are you? How are things going?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. I can't complain. You know, the wife and kids are doing well, and you know, I had a good chance to see see our Saints in Miami. So I'm actually doing some work. So I'm double dipping a little bit. Obviously, I do the preseason work with the Saints, but during the regular season, since I am stationed here in Fort Lauderdale, I do some radio work for the Dolphins now. So I'm very tuned in with both organizations.
Okay, well, I'm going to ask you to put your Saints lens on for the rest of this
Gotcha.
podcast, okay?
Gotcha.
You mentioned it. You were out there at the game. What were your
Yeah.
main takeaways?
You know, just looking at those guys, it just seems that we're close, man. You know, for me, my eyes directly go to the trenches first and foremost. Um, you know, it's just unfortunate, you know, with a couple of injuries that we have on that line, starting with that center position in Eric McCoy. You know, he's definitely missed out there, but you can see that they've done some good things. And, you know, not having a guy as dynamic as Alvin and having his leadership out there, I think I think that was tough for the I think that was tough for them, especially yesterday, and really moving forward, depending on how he heals up from that injury. But defensively, I mean, I saw a team that came out there that played with a lot of energy. You know, they got after Tua Tagovailoa pretty good. Chase Young, I believe, had himself a sack. Cam Jordan seems like he's just found the fountain of youth. He had himself 2 sacks, and you know the guys are playing hard. You know, just you know they went out there and they gave a good solid effort, but you know, it's a tough year right now, and got to weather this storm. And you know, I think brighter days are ahead.
Cam Jordan is somebody that just seems to find even more energy. Like the guy does not stop as he
Yeah,
continues to stack seasons here. And yeah, 2 sacks yesterday. So he's had a huge season so far. He mentioned last night that he has to remind himself of where the Saints are. It is a building year, and while you want to win every single game, there are things that you can take from each game that are positives. The rookie's getting a lot of run. Tyler Shough getting his opportunity here to see what he
yeah,
has. So when you look at the youth of the team and what is ahead, I mean, you have a lot of rookies getting a lot of run right now. How beneficial is that?
yeah. Really, to kind of, I want to speak on Cam Jordan for just 1 second before I get into some of the young players that have an opportunity to play. A guy like Cam is really a testament to the type of professional that he is and the effort and the discipline that he has really in his offseason. I get a chance to spend a little bit of time with him over in the offseason before training camp and just to see, you know, how disciplined he is with his diet and his workout regimen. And I think the most important when, you know, you're getting players who can play 8, 10 plus years, you got to see how they're recovering, how are they taking care of their body. And he goes above and beyond and does that. So, I mean, he's just, you know, he's really a great example, not just for his D line or the defense, but the whole team to kind of look up to, because you got to figure out how can a guy that's played that many years continue to keep having the success and the productivity that he has year in and year out. And I just think that's a testament to how he approaches the game. And then kind of going back to your point, right? It is a rebuilding year, and I think the benefit of that is you get a chance to see some of these young players, your first, second, third year players. You get a chance to throw those guys out there in the fire, whether it's your time, you get that opportunity to start or to play, or if it's because of injury, you have a chance to go out there and take your lumps now, and you get a chance to really figure out who you are and where you are in your professional career. And that's the benefit of it. You know, you get those guys out there to get that time on task. And um, it's unfortunate that, you know, the team can't win more games because, especially as a former player and somebody who's been there through the great times and had opportunity to win a lot of games there, because you know just exactly what this team means to that city. But at the end of the day, at some point, you're going to have to rebuild, and you're going to have to figure out who you have for the future that's going to be able to make this run so that this team can be successful in years to come. So you got a lot of bright spots on this team. You know, you have a rookie left tackle that's going to be your cornerstone for a while. And on the opposite side of him, Big Fuaga, he's a guy that's going to continue to keep building and getting better. Jonas Sanker in the back end, I'm excited about him. Stutzman as a linebacker. These guys they got opportunity and they've shown flashes. And the cool thing about being there in the preseason, I get a chance to see these guys and really study these guys early and see them play often, so you can kind of see flashes here and there. But once you get a chance to go out there with the starters, with the first group in the regular season, everything's ramped up. And again, like we talked about earlier, it's about time on task. It's about figuring out who you are, and it's about saying, okay, now I get into the off season, because the playoffs they're out to hunt, and so now you get to figure out, okay, what are my strengths, what are my weaknesses, and what do I need to get better at come off season time.
Looking at this game yesterday, the offense, it took some time for them to get a solid drive together. It was the first drive of the second half, 63 total yards in the first half of play, and just was, frustrating for sure. But the fact that the team was able to recompose themselves after the half and come out and make a game of it, I think does speak to at least the fight that this team has, the mentality that they're still approaching the game with. And I think it's a good thing that the players on your team, despite the record, are still giving it all they got.
Yeah, it was a rough start. First 3 drives were 3 and out. Definitely not how you want to start. First half was not good. They couldn't get anything going. They were scoreless in the first half. But I think it's about getting in and making those adjustments, and also understanding that the Miami Dolphins, although they did play well in the first half, they did not pull away or put their foot on the pedal like they could have, or really honestly like they should have, because then they made it. They went into the second half with it just being a 2-score game, and you saw the motivation that the Saints came out with in the second half, and they were able to really, like you were saying, they were able to get something going. They really did a great job of mixing it up with the no huddle, and then you started to see Tyler Shough really get a lot more comfortable behind center. He did a great job of utilizing his legs. I mean, I'm excited to see where this young player can go. He throws the ball really well. And the thing about it now, it's you don't really have guys like Drew, Peyton, Tom back in those days, Aaron Rodgers, who does use his feet pretty decently, especially back in the day. You got to be able to get out of trouble, right? Because these athletes that are rushing the passer are even better. And you got to be able to put your team in the best position possible. And if you're not going to be a consistent rhythm style quarterback, using your accuracy, doing all your pre-snap reads, you got to be able to escape the pocket and do exactly what Tyler Shough was able to do yesterday. And what you do is you put strain on the defense, because what your game plan was in the first half, it wasn't working. It wasn't getting the job done. They really didn't do as well as I'd wanted to see the Saints do on the ground, but it opened up some other opportunities later in the game. And then that's really, you want to give yourself a chance later in the game to potentially win or tie the game up, and they were right there. They did not quit on this team, and I think that's just a testament, to the players that are brought into that locker room, because you can be in certain situations, be in certain organizations where you're down 16-0 going into the third quarter, and you pretty much lay down. They did not lay down. They felt like, okay, it'll take one score and one stop for us to make this an interesting game, and that's what it was. And I actually missed the onside kick because we had ran down from the press box to where we were doing the radio, and they were like yelling at us to go see the game, like something had happened, like, it was an onside kick. You guys had kicked a field goal, which was, field goal kicking got much better yesterday, and he really gave us the chance to kind of stay in that game. And then listen, that 2-point conversion, that was a big deal, and like I said, the team didn't quit, man. And that's all you really want to see. Now it's about figuring out how to bring that no quit mentality and turn that into wins in the future.
Yeah. I mean, the first drive out of the second half goes 10 plays, 70 yards, touchdown to Chris Olave, 17-yard touchdown. He ran a great route, cut inside and then back out to the corner. And then Tyler Shough goes in around the edge for the 2-point. And it's a 1-score game, 16-8. And then you hold the Miami Dolphins to 5 points in the second half of play. So the defense definitely was doing their part for sure. The last 2 minutes of this game were wild.
Very.
It was crazy. You're
Yeah, I
down
mean, you're
19-17 with a minute 15 to go, and
yeah,
that's when the touchdown happened. You mentioned the 2-point conversion. Talia Fuaga gets called for a false start. You get
yeah,
pushed back.
yeah,
The throw for the 2-point gets intercepted, and then the onside kick, and you still have a chance.
yeah.
I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, it got real exciting. And when you're able to stop a team, when you look at the Miami Dolphins and what they did on the play calling, I didn't agree with that, but it put the Saints in a situation on fourth and maybe a half a yard to stop the Q. Was it a Q? No, it wasn't a QB sneak. It was they tried to hand it off to Ollie Gordon, and the Saints defense stopped it. I
hmm
mean, again, like there's no quit, and that goes to the leadership. That goes to your Demario Davises, your Cam Jordans, the coaches continuing to speak life into that team. And if they would have came back and won that game, that would have been a nice little motivation boost for this team, and really that gives you some confidence to say, hey, we don't give up. We're going to keep fighting, and we can actually win some of these games that come down to the wire like that. Sometimes it takes a little bit of luck. You need the ball to, quote unquote, bounce your way, just like
hmm
it did on that onside kick.
Yeah. Devon Bailey got a lot of action in this game. I think they've been
Yes.
searching for an additional receiver, definitely after the trade with Rashid Shaheed, Brandon Cooks leaving, just left Chris Olave out there. So seeing Vele being used in the way that he had the touchdown, the
Yes.
onside kick recovery there. I think that was a bright spot that you can take from this game as well.
I was actually really excited to see him kind of get mixed into the game plan more. Obviously, not much of an impact in the first half, but second half he came out. And when you just look at his body type and
hmm
the style of player, I'm not comparing him to this player as far as production, but when you look at his body style, like he reminds you of a Colson, 6'4", 6'5" receiver, long arms. I have to see a little bit more sample size when it comes to his body control and if he's able to continue to keep making some of those catches that he did. But I'm a fan of mixing up the receivers and having these guys bring different things to the table.
hmm
When you have a dynamic pass catcher like Juwan Johnson, and when you have somebody like Chris Olave that can run all the routes, you got Foster Moreau who can block and he can also catch the ball in situations where you need him to come through. Devon Vele is one of these guys that's just an added piece that gives a guy like Tyler Shough the ability to say, hey, if this guy's in one-on-one, I can throw it up to him. When you're 6'4" as a receiver, is it 6'4", 6'5"? I don't know. We're splitting hairs here, counting the inch or so. But this is a guy that can, like a basketball player, can post up, can utilize his body. When you're playing against a 6'1" defender or a 6-foot defender, like trying to create those matchups, I think is extremely important for any team. That's one of the gripes I have with the Dolphins is that all the receivers are 5'10" and below. Well, that's not going to get it done, right? Especially when you got a guy like an accurate quarterback, somebody who throws the ball well like Shough, giving the guy different style of targets to hit.
hmm
And that's I wish Shaheed would have still had the opportunity to be here because with a guy like Vele getting more comfortable in this system. You got Olave, you could have had Shaheed, you could have had Vele. All those guys bring something different to the table where they can
Yeah.
all flourish when their number's called. But it wasn't in the cards. So, somebody else has to step up and be that piece for the next year's receiver group as well.
hmm Without Alvin Kamara in the game and Kendre Miller getting hurt earlier this year, Devin Neal has stepped into a larger role and he's playing that dual threat running back. We've seen him do some really good things in pass protection as well. What have you seen from him?
I mean, listen, this is a young guy who had himself quite a college career, and this is a
hmm
guy that also is utilizing his opportunity to get in there. When your one and your number two running back are banged up right now, and Kendre Miller is going to be out for a good while. It gives an opportunity like for a guy like Devin Neal to get his feet wet to understand, okay, this is what I'm good at, and this is how I can continue to be a little bit better. But he showed really good body control. Didn't really have some of the run lanes that he's, probably used to having in his past football career. You got to give this guy a little bit more opportunity, and whether that's just being a little bit better at the line of scrimmage, getting up to some of these linebackers and creating a little bit more space for your running backs. But I think he's going to be a guy that can continue to keep flourishing in this system. And as you get some of these, get your older guys back, your older running backs back, maybe he can continue to find himself getting in the mix and get a little bit more touches as well.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned this a little bit earlier about the kicking game and Charlie Smith. It's such a cool story for him to get his first NFL action, first start. And they showed video of his hometown, the pub going crazy when he made that 56-yard kick. And he's such a nice, happy person to be around.
Yeah.
Like that kick probably would have been good from 70. And that's his thing. Like he can kick it so far. It's just the accuracy part of it. When you watch games and you see stories like that and moments for players, how cool is that for you, knowing, kind of your journey, where you came from, playing at Towson and not being a huge, football school to come out of and get your opportunity?
Yeah. I mean, he came from across the pond, and, not many of those guys really get an opportunity. And I appreciate you kind of drawing similarities to, to my story as well, is when you have an opportunity like Charlie Smith has, and for guys like myself, smaller town people, smaller college players, you have this level of support that can surround you, and you don't have to feel like it's added pressure. You just got to know that there's a lot of people pulling for you. Mm-hmm. Whether you do good or you do bad, like you get that chance out there, and then you go out there and you flourish, and it's an exciting feeling, mm-hmm. And that can be part of your motivating factor. For me personally, it's like, I knew I had people in my hometown of King George that were excited and praying for me and just really supporting me, and seeing, Bushrod on the back of a jersey, it was a big deal. Like, and I don't take that support for granted. I don't take that time in my story, in my life, for granted. And the same thing with Towson. I think I was the 4th player drafted, and when I came out, I was the highest player drafted at that time. But when you have groups of individuals who are praying and supporting you, and happy to see you out there doing something that you love to do, that had to be a big moment for him. And going back to that kick, I remember looking at it, because where I sit in the press box, it was I kind of sit on the corner, like right where the Miami Dolphins run out of the tunnel, and I could see the kick. It was a perfect kick. And to your point, it looked like it was about 15 to 20 feet over top of the crossbar.
Yeah.
So that's a big deal for him, and it's not like it was a sunshiny day in Miami either. It was a little bit of weather, the grass a little wet. I don't know at that time that it was sprinkling a little bit, but there was definitely a little bit of elements that he had to deal with, and he sunk it. He rose up to the challenge, and I see him doing that a lot more in his football future.
Mm-hmm. And then the onside kick as well. When you're there in that stadium, you're seeing the Saints there. Does it bring back any memories of a big game you played there before?
First off, and then you get the onside kick back, so it kind of felt a little nostalgic, right? Because everything that we had been through in that stadium. It's funny because I'm doing the radio for the Dolphins, but I had my Super Bowl ring on, and I don't bring that out much. Honestly, I don't think I've ever worn it to a game. A non-Saints game, but I mean, even Saints game, I think I might have worn it once, twice, maybe. Mm-hmm. And I had it on, and the reason I wore it was because it brings back a lot of memories, and I can draw a comparison of not only the onside kick, but winning the Super Bowl there, with the Saints, how great of just a time in my football career that was, and really for that city. But the fact that we were down in that game by double digits, and this team yesterday was down. So I'll say yesterday. I don't know when you're going to put this out, but on Sunday, this past Sunday, that team was down and they fought back trying to get an onside kick, and it was kind of like, okay, this could get quite interesting. And the fact that they had a chance to win it at the end of the game, it was a neat feeling just sitting there, watching the end of this game play out and just understanding like how special that game was and the adversity that we had overcome earlier in that 2009 season. And it kind of really set us up and put us in the frame of mind of we can overcome adversity. And we overcame adversity in the place where they were hosting Super Bowl 44 that year in Miami, Florida. And that was kind of our motivation to get back. Like, man, we can do it here. We can do it behind these elements and facing that adversity. And we did. We came back and we won. And even when we got to that game, we were faced with adversity. We were playing one of the best quarterbacks in the league. We were down. And that onside kick was the thing that kind of sparked that. It did spark that. So, it was a fun ride yesterday, just seeing both of I'll say I played for 3 teams, but those are my 2 favorite teams. Obviously, Saints being number 1.
There you go. Thank you. You mentioned resiliency, and that's kind of what this city is about. And this team is going through a tough time. When you look at the quarterback situation, can you really evaluate Tyler Shough and what he is, what he could be, with maybe the offensive issues that they've had and some players in and out?
Yeah. I think as he continues to keep stacking games, that's just evaluation opportunity for our scouts, for the coaches, so that they're able to evaluate to see what this player can do good, what can he do that we need to work on, what really fits his skill set, and then what is he showing us? Like we feel like we have this idea of who this guy is, but now that we actually get a chance to see this larger sample size, like you can look at it in the preseason and say, oh, he does this okay. We don't know what he does. Now you get a chance to see him start games, finish games. How does he act when his back is against the wall? How does he lead a team? When adversity does strike, what does he do well? I love the fact that, again, we talked about it. He gets out of trouble really well. He's not scared to use his feet. That first, second, third read not there, he's gone. He feels pressure. I see an opening, I'm gone. He's getting down and he's protecting himself as well. So he did something that Tua Tagovailoa looked extremely uncomfortable doing, and that was trying to get out of trouble. His eyes was down the field. A couple of times where he got out the pocket, he's trying to direct the guys down the field and maybe try to hit a long ball or a nice shot down the field somehow. So I feel like he's getting a little bit more comfortable, but he's got a lot more time on task that is needed for him to, to be successful. And I think, the Saints just keep sticking with him, because when this draft comes, and fortunately, unfortunately, it looks like we're going to be, picking early. It gives you a chance. Yeah. It gives you a chance to really get some good assets for this team.
Yeah.
If you feel comfortable with the quarterback or the quarterbacks that we have on the roster right now.
Looking at the NFC South and what's ahead, the Bucs are the next opponent for the Saints. They have been kind of up and down. The Panthers just beat the Rams. I mean, their season has been pretty surprising, I think. When you look at the fact that that's a team that the Saints beat, it's weird. It's always weird in the NFC South.
It's the league, man. Like you don't know what's going to happen, but I feel like in the NFC South, to your point, you don't know who you're going to get with the Atlanta Falcons. They started out pretty hot. They were doing some good things. The Carolina Panthers are very surprising. And the thing that I like about what they're doing in Carolina is the fact that they're relying on this run game. They're really honing in on that. They're not wavering from it. They have a 2-headed monster right now in Rico Dowdle and Shough Hubbard. And they're really kind of feeding into that. I believe Mike Evans for the Bucs got hurt. I believe so. And it seems like that team hasn't been the same since. So hopefully we catch them on another off day because, we owe them.
Yeah.
At some point, New Orleans has got to get back to being that team that dominates the NFC South. And when you look at what they've really done, talking about that division over the last few years, it hasn't been too dominant,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like we're a couple players away from getting back to where we can, be competitive and fight for that number one spot there in the NFC South. And the good thing is, we have health on our side a little bit better this year compared to the last 3 years.
Yeah.
So hopefully, knock on some wood here that we continue to have that moving forward because it's time to change the trajectory.
Yeah. Before I let you go, I got to ask you if you have an opinion on the college football landscape right now, because that was the crazy
Yeah,
story around here this weekend with Lane Kiffin taking the job at LSU.
yeah. I do have a few thoughts about it. One, I hate it for the kids. Um, I, when you look at the university, I mean, they're going to the college football playoffs,
Yeah.
and you don't have your head coach, or he's left. He went to go, for a bigger payday, and then you now have some of your offensive staff. The OC left. So obviously somebody can step up and take over that head coaching role, which is going to be tough. But if you are missing a bunch of offensive minds on that side of the ball, I think it's it's frustrating again because these players fought so hard, to get to where
Hmm.
they are, and I'm sure those and those coaches coach their behind off the game plan week in and week out so that they can go and win games, and you finally have a chance, and you do what you're supposed to do, and you get double-digit wins at Ole Miss, and now you're going to be in the college football playoff scenario, and you're not going to have the people that help get you there, and I think it sends a pretty ugly message to the team. But it's the business of football. And hopefully we look back at this situation and say, something's got to change. The transfer portal situation has got to change. If you're going to be making hires through the season, you have to respect the process enough to give those coaches an opportunity to finish
Hmm.
what they started with those kids. To yank a head coach out from a team right now, that's the part of the situation I don't like. Now, again, like coaches, they always move on. And sometimes, you want to have a chance to go and be in the best situation possible. But what message does that send to the kids at LSU? What does it send to the prospective players that wanted to go to LSU? What does it send? What does it say around the league? Again, nothing really. Well, something good comes out of it for Lane Kiffin and some of his guys that are going to be getting a promotion. But at the end of the day, like this could be a once in a lifetime opportunity for some of these players to actually go and compete for a national championship. And I think I'm always going to err on the side of the players because I'm not in that coaching role, not at,
Yeah.
nowhere near that level. I mean, I coach little league football, so I'm not taking home anything. I'm actually in the red, but I'm fortunate enough to be in that situation. And, again, you work so hard, that's your goal. And now he's not there. Again, I hate it for the kids that wanted this, but that's the business of college football right now. And if they don't change the structure, then it's going to happen again.
Yeah. I mean, there's going to be a lot of expectations for Lane Kiffin here in Baton Rouge for sure. And you hope that those players at Ole Miss can end their season on a win, at least
For
to have
sure.
that for sure.
For,
So
for sure.
I definitely understand the sentiment. I don't even want to bring up my school that I went to because our coaching situation is a disaster. And you might be able to guess it's like a light blue school in the ACC. It's just,
North Carolina. Oh boy.
yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's a whole nother story. We don't have enough time on
We do
the
not. No.
spot.
Thank you so much for joining me,
All
though.
right.
I appreciate it.
No problem at all. I always appreciate the opportunity to be on the Talk Saints Ball.
Appreciate Jermon joining me on the podcast. And as I mentioned, he was here over training camp. We talked about getting together for the podcast. So glad we finally got it to happen. He said he will be here in December for that Panthers game. A lot of Saints legends are coming back and will be in the building for that one December 14th because it is our Legends game. So make sure that you come out as well. Should be a fun one. We got a couple more big games coming up for the Saints, and we'll continue to break down things as far as the Bucs are concerned this week as the Saints start their preparation on Wednesday. Stay tuned to the New Orleans Saints podcast, as always, on NewOrleansSaints.com or wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you so much for listening.
Thanks for listening to the New Orleans Saints podcast presented by Rouse's Markets. Join us 3 times per week on NewOrleansSaints.com, the Saints mobile app, or you can download the podcast on iTunes. We'll see you next time, right here on the New Orleans Saints podcast, presented by Rouse's Markets.